Welcome to A Slob Comes Clean, the podcast. I'm Dana White. I blog over at aslobcomesclean.com. That's where I share my personal deslobification process. As I figure out ways to keep my own home under control, I share the truth about cleaning and organizing strategies that actually work in real life for real people, people who don't necessarily love cleaning and organizing. Thanks for joining me today. I am sorry that this is late. So let me tell a little story about how people like me tend to think that we're just the best at make and do. I think that's one of my problems is that I'm like, oh, I can make do. I'll be fine. Well, anyway, so I bought a new computer. Oh, I don't know, about a month ago maybe. And the reason I bought the new computer was my old one was being difficult. And the main thing that was difficult about it was it would just randomly turn off. Like if I touched it, like moved it even the tiniest little bit, it would not always. Okay. And that's the problem is that it wasn't always. It would just, and everything just turned completely off. Well, you know, you really can't have that, especially when you're, I don't know, writing books and things like that. So anyway, so I bought a new computer. But I had not downloaded my podcasting software. It just was one of those things where one time I kind of thought about it and then I was like, oh, I really want to make sure I go because it's this anyway, whatever. Y'all don't want to know the tech stuff, but basically I had put off downloading the podcasting software that I needed. And so I had been recording my podcast on my old computer because I was like, oh, I can just do that. And there was one other time when I had done that and I had slightly moved my computer, my laptop, right after I had finished and it shut off. But when I pulled it up again, it came up as a recovered thing and it was fine. Well, of course, I'm sure you know what's going to happen. So yesterday, I recorded a podcast and I truly was like, that was a good podcast. I felt really good about it. I felt like, oh, yay, I finally kind of got my podcasting mojo back maybe. And guess what I did? I slightly moved the computer because I was like, okay, I'm going to, get this finished up, get it out there. Picked up the computer to put on my lap, not just barely moved it, but picked it up to put it on my lap to do the work and it went off and it was not recoverable. I was not able to get it. So I am now recording this on my new computer, but I also know for a fact that it's probably not going to be as long as yesterday's because now I'm in a huge time crunch this morning. And anyway, so the moral of the story is don't put off things because you can make do. The whole reason I bought the new computer. Well, anyway, whatever. I'm just, it's like I was telling my husband about it. And my son was like, why would you even use your old computer? And I'm like, I know. It doesn't make any sense. But that's me. I'll be fine. I'll be fine. And then something happens. And it's like, oh, anyway, whatever. Okay. Kind of like when I'm like, oh, I'm just going to not worry about my house at all. And then all of a sudden somebody's coming over, same kind of mentality, same kind of problem. Anyway, this is podcast number 110. And today's podcast is entitled-ish, What is the Difference Between Cleaning, Organizing, and Decluttering? And I've talked about this before. It's a distinction that is important for me to understand. Okay. So I have a podcast and a post called The Layers of a Clean House. And I base that on our experience that we have had in my parents' little place that they have up at a lake. And so we go there and sometimes we spend 2 days and sometimes we spend a week, but it's kind of like this microcosm because we go in as a family and we're actually cooking and living. It's not just you're go in a hotel room or whatever. There's no maid service, anything like that. So you go and everything is perfect. You get there and then you live for 4 or 5 days and then you have to bring it back to perfect before you leave. So it's like this, it's just this real nice little lab for me for all these slob issues that I talk about. So anyway, in that, I realized the short version of that one is I realized through that, okay, so there's our daily layer of things that just have to be done every day. There's the, dishes and just general picking up and throwing things away as we use them, not just leaving things around piled up, whatever. Then there's the layer of decluttering, which in my normal house is normal decluttering. There it's getting our stuff out of the way, which means the stuff that's really doesn't live there and have a home. And then there's the cleaning layer. And it just kind of has helped me see how those are the three layers of having a clean house. Well, this is kind of along those same lines. What's the difference between cleaning, decluttering, and organizing? Well, a big part of my problem way back when was that I didn't know there was, I would have said that I knew, but I didn't know that cleaning, when other people said, I'm going to clean my house today, when they said that, they were not talking about first removing this layer of clutter. Okay? And I'm sure some of them were. But in general, when people talk about cleaning their house, they're talking about wiping down the cabinets, cleaning the bathroom, cleaning it, not picking up the clutter. They're talking about mopping the floors. Did I already say that? But that's what cleaning is. And yet when I said I've got to clean my house, I had to get rid of that clutter first before I even could get to the cleaning of my house. Okay. So for me, it was a huge, much more daunting task because there was not just even before the blog, there was not even just like the daily layer of clutter there that would be normally taken care of now with a 5-minute pickup. There was actually piled up. I just had so much junk. Okay. And so to move things, that's why the whole, I always say that I could get my house ready for guests. I just had to have 2 weeks, and 2 weeks meant first week was decluttering, which really just was stuff shifting, which was putting stuff in my master bedroom so that I could lock the door and not let people go in there. And then I would actually clean. So it's like, and that took a week to declutter, not really decluttering, just stuff shifting. And then a week to actually clean, because you can't clean when there's clutter everywhere. I've been asked before, one of the first times that I ever, it was at a blogging conference and I was talking to people and introducing myself as a slob. I don't do that in general life, just so you know. But I was, talking to people. They had never met me before. And the one thing they knew about me was the name of my blog, which is My Deep Dark Secret. And somebody said, are you a clutter slob or a dirty slob? And I was like, a year before that, before I had started the blog, I would have said I'm a clutter slob because I like things clean. I know how to clean. I am a germaphobe, but over time, I had to accept that if there's clutter everywhere, you can't clean. You just can't. You can't keep things clean underneath clutter. And anyway, that's just, sorry, I'm drinking my coffee this morning. Anyway, so that distinction was important for me to accept about myself. Okay. So there is a difference between cleaning and decluttering. Now, some people, when my normal friend came over and helped me clean my master bedroom, this has been years ago. There's stuff about it. I have a post about it on the blog, and I think we even did a video together. But when she came over, she was just a whirlwind. She got in there, she worked through that room, and she didn't first remove the layer of clutter and then go in and clean. She just did it as she went around the room. And I think that's great, and that's ideal. And I think that is most likely what she's used to doing, living in her normal life that is not ridiculously cluttered all the time. It's like once you get to that point where there isn't a huge, deep layer of clutter over everything, then as you go and as you run across something, and as I say you, I'm really saying me, as I go and I run across something while I'm cleaning that I'm like, oh, this needs to be, I just go ahead and do it as part of the cleaning, picking up or whatever, where I start to go, oh my goodness, there's clutter still. It's like, no, it can just be done as part of it. But when you have a huge layer of clutter, it's so much harder to get started on the cleaning. Okay, so there's a difference between cleaning and decluttering. As I started working on daily tasks, then that made a huge difference in my overall, what you normally think of as cleaning. Okay, because I could clean my house and I didn't have to start with the dishes. The dishes were already done as a daily task. I could clean my house and I could mop the floor without having to spend an hour sweeping it. I'd have to spend 2 minutes sweeping it because I'd been sweeping it consistently. And so all there was just one little day's worth of stuff. I could clean the bathrooms without first having to pick up all the clothes off the floor and, figure out what this mass of different random stuff on the bathroom counter was. So it's like decluttering daily habits and then decluttering, just getting stuff actually out of my house so it wasn't there to create a mess. As I did that, then cleaning, the thing nobody loves to do, I'm sure there are people who love it, that became less daunting. The less daunting it was, the less likely I was to put it off. And when I used to put it off even longer because I was overwhelmed, it would get more overwhelming, which made me put it off longer. It's that cycle. So it's a way to break that cycle and gain traction. As I talk about this, I'm just going to advertise my book, How to Manage Your Home Without Losing Your Mind. It is available. You can get it paperback. You can get it digitally, Kindle or Nook, which means you could download it and start reading immediately. You can get the audio version on either CD or on Audible, or I think you can get an MP3 version as well. You can get the CD from Barnes & Noble or Amazon. You can get audible.com. You can download it there. The book talks you through implementing all of these things in your home. That's the point. If you've listened to all of my podcasts, you've gained a lot of knowledge. But to have an actual, this is the plan, this is the mindset you need to break through, this is what you need to do first, this is what's going to happen and what's going to trip you up and make you not think you can do it, and this is how you're going to break through that anyway. You're going to have all those decluttering strategies right there. There are news stories that you haven't heard before. Basically what I'm getting from people is people saying, I didn't know for sure if I needed the book because I've read everything and listened to everything already. They're like, but the book is totally worth it. Okay. So yes, I'm advertising my own book and I'm just telling you, you need it. Okay. So start thinking about having that. Just a little warning, you are going to develop decluttering fever on December 25th, about 6 p.m. It just happens. I can tell because my traffic explodes on that day at that time for the blog. So it's going to happen. Go ahead and get the book. Have this something so that you're in the right mindset to do it in a way that's actually going to last. Because that's what we're talking about here. We're talking about how to do things in a way that's actually going to last, because that's everybody's main concern. Everybody like me, that's our concern. They're like, well, I can get started because I've gotten started about 1,000 times before, but I always fizzle. Well, understanding this kind of stuff and doing it in this manner will help you build that momentum and that traction. That's the thing that I always coveted and always felt like, why can I never do this? This method and this way that I lay out and how to manage your home without losing your mind, this is the way to actually have it make a lasting impact. Okay, but what is the difference between... I think the difference between cleaning and organizing is pretty different. I mean, pretty obvious. But what's the difference between decluttering and organizing? Organizing is problem solving. Problem solving can be overwhelming. Problem solving can be overwhelming, but it can also be strangely fun. like, how can I predict the future? Let me think through every possible scenario and let me come up with a plan. I love coming up with plans. I love thinking things through. That can be more fun than actually cleaning and getting started. So if I look at, let's say I have a big pile of papers and I think I need to get my papers organized. I'm going to be thinking, wow, what can I get? What kind of a system can I implement to deal with all of these papers? And so I'm going to go out and I'm going to buy a little file cabinet, or I'm going to buy a, little mail organizer or whatever. And I'm going to come back and then I'm going to start looking at all that paper and I'm going to go, yeah, there's no way all this paper would actually fit in this. If I even had the energy to even look at it again after I got back from the store, I'm going to look at that and go, oh yeah, there's just, I don't know. That's too much. And you know what? I've had one of these mail organizers before now that I think about it. And wow, I've got that file cabinet in that other room that, I haven't even opened it in 15 years and I have no idea what's in it, but I know it's too full to put anything else in it. And this stuff never works for me. Okay. That's organizing. When instead, if I will say, I'm not going to worry about organizing, I'm just going to declutter. If I look at that pile of papers, before I ever think about how am I going to get this organized, I think I'm just going to declutter. I'm going to get rid of the papers that I don't need. Strangely, I am generally able to whittle that paper pile down just by decluttering by like 90% generally. That right there means that I have a much smaller pile of papers of things I actually need to keep. Then I live with that smaller pile of papers for a while. And because I spent all that time worrying about, and I spent all that time going through those papers, I'm mentally changed and I'm much more, what's the word? Picky. Yeah. All that thinking, and picky is the word I come up with, but whatever. I'm much more picky about what I'm willing to actually bring into my home. I try to be the one who brings paper into the home so that I can go ahead and pitch the pieces of paper that we don't need. Because generally, if I go out to the mail, out of 5 things, we might need one of them. A lot of times we don't need any of them. And if they can go straight immediately to recycling or trash, whatever you have, if you don't have recycling, if they can immediately go to that, then we are so much better off than just sticking them in a pile of papers. Because when I think, oh, wow, there's a lot of stuff I can get here, but then for some strange reason, I just set it down on the dining room table or I set it down on the counter instead of actually dealing with it before I set it down, then even though I knew in the moment that most of this is stuff that we don't need, as I do that today and then tomorrow and then the next day, and it becomes this huge and overwhelming pile of paper, even though I knew with each individual randomly, thoughtlessly laying it down that it was not something that I needed to keep, once it's a big, huge pile, I start to have these panic moments of, I know there's probably something in there that I need to keep. And so now I'm going to have to go through all of those papers. And now it's completely overwhelming. Where if I will just declutter, just go ahead, deal with the papers. Don't worry about how you're going to solve the problem of, making it perfect forever. It's amazing the difference. Okay. So decluttering and organizing are 2 separate things. Give yourself permission to just declutter. Okay. All right. This podcast is about half as long as yesterday, even though this is about how long I talked on this exact subject, which is curious to me, interesting. But I actually recorded another 20 minutes starting at this point on blogging. And the reason is that I was asked a question by one of you asked to talk about it on the podcast about how I built my audience. And the question was, how did I build my audience when I wasn't telling people I knew about the blog? And I think that's a great question. I know that you guys are not listening to my podcast for blogging stories. So that's why I was going to put it at the end so that at this point you could turn it off and go, be done with me talking about cleaning. Or if you wanted to hear the blogging stuff, then you could keep listening. And I really got pretty jazzed talking about blogging because it's one of those things I really like to talk about. But I do not have time today to spend another 20 minutes on that. So I will add that on to the end of a future podcast, hopefully in the next couple of weeks. But I will not be podcasting next week. It is Thanksgiving here in the U.S. And so we are taking the week to be together as a family, and I will not be putting out a podcast. But I will come back in December. And, or I don't know, will it be December? I think December 1st is maybe a Thursday. So anyway, whatever, I will be back after next week. But I am so sorry that this podcast is late and short and all that. But I hope that you will enjoy your time with your family if you're having people in your home or going to other people's homes. Don't forget to go back and listen to 60 Minutes to Guests to give you just some focus. I had an awesome comment or email, I can't remember, from one of you saying that you had followed that plan just for yourself. Just a 60-minute get your house together, and you were just super proud of yourself. And like, that makes me so ridiculously happy. So anyway, I will talk to you guys later. Make sure you go and order my book or check in your local bookstores and see if they have it there. And if they don't, tell them to order it. All right. I'll talk to you guys later. Bye.